Oh, hello. In today's video, we're going to reveal the rumors that have been flying around about the next kill team. Well, maybe not the next kill team, but the next kill team is rumored anyway. Um, and why? Like, I don't think we should definitely buy it. Stay tuned to find out why I said that. So, it's the next Warhammer Heroes release. Warhammer Heroes, for those of you that don't know, is a collection of miniatures in blind boxes where you pick up a box from the display set like this, and it's a random one of those 7 models that displayed on the front there, and they're kind of quite inexpensive, pocket money sort of prices. I say that they're not that inexpensive, right? But and you get a Warhammer model, and it's just one random one, and they're usually a little bit cooler, a little bit fancier than the standard miniatures, but they are also always mono-pose. And we've had a kill team released this way before, not last year, but the year before. The Warhammer Heroes release was what you see on screen. It was, at that point, it was called Strike Force Justian, and it came with kill team rules in the box for the previous edition of Kill Team. And then it was eventually re-released in the starter set for this edition of Kill Team as part of the Angels of Death team. And then you can add in the other bits that were in the old Intercession team. They kind of fused them together into one team. And then, yeah, that's it. So essentially we're getting the next issue of Warhammer Heroes. We had 2 years ago, it was Strikeforce Justian. Last year, they did some Stormcast that had rules cards in the box for Warcry. And then this next year coming up, we're getting, it's going to be Space Marines again, apparently, with rules in the boxes for Kill Team. So this time it's going to be Dark Angels themed, which Valrak is speculating, and so am I, but we both independently think it's likely not going to be Dark Angels details on the models. So I wouldn't expect sort of sculpted shoulder pads with the winged swords and stuff like that. What I think it will be is that the studio models will be painted as Dark Angels on the on the Kill Team cards. The little pictures will be those Dark Angels studio models. They might have names of Dark Angels, like Sergeant Chubriel, Brother Damael, or whatever it is. But I suspect the miniatures will be cast just like these were cast in blue plastic. I expect the miniatures will be cast in a sort of dark green plastic. But I think ultimately that if you're going to paint them, you'll be able to paint them as whatever chapter you want, and that actually the miniatures, the sculpts themselves, are likely to be chapter agnostic. That's what I think. It also happens to be what Valrak said in his video, which is a couple of weeks old now, right? Now, what Valrak said, he didn't have very much detail on this. He said it's going to mainly be normal Mark 10 Marines, which is a normal intercessor type Marines, right? There's going to be one guy in Phobos armor. No details on how he's going to be armed, but there's going to be one guy in Phobos armor. Could be an intercessor, could be a reaver, could be another eliminator, or that's probably unlikely considering we've had an eliminator in Strikeforce Justian here, right? There's going to be an Infernus Marine, okay, and there's going to be a Stern Guard veteran squad leader. So if you think about it, that's 3 members of the team. If you think about Strikeforce Justian, right, they had a Phobos guy, that Captain Justian, and they had the heavy bolter guy. So and then of the other guys, it was kind of 3 regular bolter men and an assault marine. So this could follow a similar vein where the things Valrak's told us about, they're the main ones that are special, and then the other models in the box are just sort of pretty generic dudes, I think, potentially, right? I would expect this to be a 7 model set from which you select a 6 model team. And so this is me talking now, not Valrak, right? And I would also expect it to come out around September or October. The Space Marine ones, the Strikeforce Justian, they came out in September time. The Stormcast ones, they came out in October time. So that all sounds pretty great, right? But why did I say on the thumbnail that we shouldn't buy it? Well, if you've been a follower of this channel for a long time, you will have seen the video, put the thumbnail here. Sorry, I have to talk about Warhammer Heroes, and I'll put the link to this video in the description again for anybody that wants to go back and check this out. So I made this in 2024 when they started to talk up the Stormcast Eternals. So that's the second set under Warhammer Heroes, right? Now, when Strikeforce Justin was released, if you bought a display case, right, of 8 boxes, then you got all 7 unique sculpts, and then you also got a single duplicate sculpt, right? So you could buy the box, and that was the product, and you got everything in it. And that's a little bit annoying. You know, you get an extra model that you don't necessarily want, but hey, one extra Space Marine, you can use it for testing paint schemes and stuff like this, or for conversions, and you get a lot of extra packaging that you don't need and have to dispose of. But ultimately, it wasn't. I think actually the price was pretty analogous to what they charge for a kill team now, except obviously you buy a Space Marine kill team, you get 10 models and not 8. But it was pretty analogous. It wasn't that bad. But when they did the Stormcast one, they decided to remove that feature. And I'm going to read to you the quote again from Warcom when they released the Stormcast Warhammer Heroes. Every display unit will have 8 blind boxes. Unlike previous Warhammer Heroes series, there's no guarantee you will get all 7 miniatures if you buy a full unit of 8. And they actually published on the back of it was either on the back of the boxes or on the back of the display packaging, the odds, right, that you would get the miniatures. So if I look at this, and apologies, this screenshot is a bit blurry, like there's one figure that's a 1 in 4, right? So obviously, 1 in 4 boxes that you pick up will be this one figure. That's like the trash figure, right, that replaces the rares when you don't get a rare, okay? And then you got 4 figures that are 1 in 8. Okay, so in other words, they're going to be present in every case. So you buy a case, it seems like you're guaranteed to get one of those 1 in 8 figures, right? And then the other 4 figures in the box are likely to be made up of this other right girl. And then you had one that I've labeled 6 that was sort of reasonably rare, that was 5 in 24, and you had the leader, number 4 there, that was 1 in 24. So in other words, 1 in 3 display cases would have the leader in it, right? I find that disgusting. And if you want me to go into more detail as to why, go and look at the video I've linked in the description. It's from about a year ago. But I found that absolutely disgusting. And at the time, I went off. I did a whole half-hour video explaining what the problem was, why I was against it. And I said, well, obviously, I'm not going to buy these Stormcast. But let's get real. I was never going to buy Stormcast anyway because I don't really like Stormcast. I don't really play Warcry. Now it's come back to the game, the Games Workshop game that I love the most, right? It's come back to something that would get me content on my channel. But I've got money, right? I've not got loads of money. Don't get me wrong, but I make about $1,000 a year from doing this, so I can kind of justify to myself if I wanted to. I could be like, yeah, well, I'll buy. You know, I could easily say something like, oh, I'll buy 3-4 cases of Warhammer Heroes, and then I'll give away the duplicates on stream, and I could turn it into a fun thing. But I really don't want to. I am not going to buy. I'm not going to buy any of these Warhammer Heroes unless if they go back to the distribution model that they had for the previous set, where you can buy the display case and you get everything with 1 duplicate. That's okay. I mean, listen, right? Arguably, that shouldn't be okay, right? There are people I know of who don't want to engage, who didn't want to engage with Warhammer Heroes even before they made it, in my view, super disgusting, right? There were people that already were like, well, I just want to go and buy a box of models. I don't want to have to track down this thing, buy a whole display case. And there was the whole thing of, oh, we're going to release it in like Germany and um, Japan and somewhere else first, and then it will come to the UK, and then maybe eventually it comes to America. And it was a whole thing there as well. I mean, I acquired my Strikeforce Justian right when they came out through the kindness, essentially, of Nightfall, who's a big supporter of the channel, also happens to be um, a German gentleman. So he was able to get this and then ship it on to me. But like, not everyone has that kind of connection, you know. So I already think Warhammer Heroes is a bit of an ask. Even under the format where I was expected to tolerate it, where I found myself able to tolerate it, largely for a lot of the reasons I've outlined, being a content creator, all the other pieces, right? But if they change it now, or sorry, if they maintain what they had for the Warhammer Heroes release with the Stormcast, again, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to boycott the product. I'm gonna have to advise everybody else who watches me, don't. If it's not guaranteed that if you buy a case you get every miniature, like you can't send them the signal and that's okay. You can't, you shouldn't. It's immoral. It's gambling. It's it's something I really, really hate and find disgusting, which is disguised gambling. I want to be really clear. I'm not you know, some people don't like gambling and they see gambling as being a huge problem just in general, right? And I know people with that viewpoint, right? And that's fine. I'm not even there. I don't mind. Like I like to put a bet on the Grand National, right? Horse racing. I don't mind putting a bet on at Cheltenham, right? Which is horse racing. Again, it's something I do with my dad. I talk to him about it. It's something I've cultivated, to have something in common with my dad, and that's fine. I buy lottery tickets, you know, uh, probably once or twice a month. I buy a national lottery ticket, I've been known to in the past have proposition bets with my friends. Tenor says this happens or that happens or the other thing happens. I've not got a problem with gambling in general, right? But for whatever reason, what really like if you're in a casino or you're buying a lottery ticket or you're in a bookies, right? You're mindfully deciding and you know what you're doing, and I haven't got a problem with that. Where I start to get an issue, it's rubbish like this. It's rubbish like loot boxes in video games. It's rubbish like Magic the Gathering and other kind of blind buy trading card games, which I've spent so much money on in the past, right? It's things where the gambling is disguised from you, right? So you're not mindfully going, okay, I've decided I'm going to gamble. I'm going to stake this much. This is what I think. This is on a thing where I think the outcome might be this. I've decided that this might be the outcome, and I'm going to get this much money back if I win, and this much. I think that's fine, but I think when it's gambling and it's hidden, and when it's hidden behind something like, okay, there are some children that play Kill Team, not many, but like the last Kill Team event, there were like I think there were 4 under-18s at the event, right? And so, what if they think that the Warhammer Heroes is really cool when they see the minis? What if Dark Angels happens to be there? It's gambling and it's marketed not exclusively at kids, but it's gambling that's marketed at kids. A child cannot set foot in a bookmaker in this country. A child cannot purchase a lottery ticket, right? When gambling is honest, right? When it's stake cash, receive cash back, we sensibly say, well, children can't do that, right? But when it's this kind of weird pop culture-y, consumery, oh, you're buying a thing and your thing might contain this or that or this or that, and you don't know, and isn't it just fun and exciting? No, it's not fun and exciting, it's rancid. It's rancid. And it's not so. Listen, because I'm not actually even against blind boxes in general, right? So I have on my desk, I don't know if you're able to see, I have a little Dr. Robotnik, right? I have that because I bought on a whim. I was in a Forbidden Planet and they were like, oh, retro Sonic the Hedgehog blind boxes for by the till. Hey, I'll buy one. Oh, cool. I've got Dr. Robotnik. I'll stick that on my desk. That's awesome. It's not a problem. I don't even mind a blind bag when it's just like, oh, which one will I get? That's funny, right? What I mind, really, the thing that makes this annoying to me is it's a set. It's it's not a functional thing unless you have the whole thing. That really is the problem. And people might think I'm splitting hairs here, but if you think about it logically for a minute, then I'm not, right? It the blind bag thing becomes a problem. Look, I have no idea if Dr. Robotnik here it was rare, super common, whatever, right? I think he's really cool. He's survived with me through about 5 or 6 different house moves, and he brings me a lot of joy, right? And I never went into it with the mindset of, well, I'm going to have to buy all these Sonic the Hedgehog watcher names until I get all of them, right? But the problem with this is these are game pieces for a game where the different they only have functionality when you have all the pieces, and that's what makes it rancid. I hope that makes sense. And if you disagree with me, please feel free to pop off in the comments and tell me I'm grifting and being negative on YouTube for clicks and all the rest of it. But man, I really hope that the new Kill Team Warhammer Heroes they announced that if you can buy a full display case, you get all the miniatures. Because then I can be uncomplicatedly excited about it. I can buy it. I can get new miniatures. We can do all the fun things, right? All that said, let's talk about another Loyalist Space Marine team. So the cool thing about this, right, taking in everything I've just said, the rules will be free for everybody on the app. Because that's the world we're living in now with this edition of Kill Team. So even if you totally agree with me and you're boycotting the product, you still get new stuff, right? Because if it's a new Space Marine kill team and you don't want to buy the model in question, do you know there are other Space Marines? Do you know there are the Space Marines secondhand on eBay. There are Space Marines that were on the front of all these various magazines, and you could just buy a box of Space Marines in your gaming group and share out. Everyone gets a Phobos guy and converts up their own Phobos fella for the new Space Marine squad. Or hell, if you've got a Phobos team because you bought them in box of 10, you've probably got a spare Phobos fella. You've probably got spare intercessors cracking about, right? There's probably some models from your Angels of Death team that you could use in this new team anyway, right? And therein is another interesting question. I don't know that Kill Team needs another team that's going to be a slight slant on Angels of Death. And so what feels possible to me is that the Warhammer Heroes set is like it said, it was the Phobos guy, the Infernus Marine, and the Sternguard leader, right? And then a selection of Assault Marines and regular Marines. And it's actually just going to be 3 new options going into Angels of Death, right? So if you have an Angels of Death team, you just need to track down an Infernus Marine, a Phobos guy, and a Sternguard Sergeant, right? Because you don't, unless you particularly want to collect the Space Marine Heroes' particular sculpts, you've got intercessors, is what I'm thinking, right? So they might do it that way, where they just add in some new stuff for Angels of Death. Because I think Angels of Death is going to be a forever team. It's already been like Intercessors was a thing. It ought to cycle out, but then they put it into the starter set, so we reset the clock. And I think they're going to add stuff to it. And I don't think that the Space Marine team is ever rotating out Kill Team, right? And I think they're going to add little bits to it here and there. I think that might be the fate of the Space Marine team and Kill Team. We'll have to see. I think that's a cool idea, right? Because that means that you're picking up a squad of Infernus Marines if you haven't got one, and we might even do something on the channel where it's like, hey, hooking people in the same country as you up, mailing Infernus Marines around the country and things like that. That'd be quite fun, right? So I think all of that is interesting and possible and cool. And just because, like me, you wish to, if like me, you wish to potentially boycott the actual plastic product, you're still getting a new cool thing potentially for the game that we all play. Now, I might be well off the base on this. It might not be an expansion to Angels of Death. They might really double down on them being a Dark Angels kill team that's all Dark Angel-y with new equipment and ploys. They're all themed around the Dark Angels. But somehow I can't see it because I don't really think if they were going to do a Dark Angels team for Dark Angels players that was all Dark Angel-y, I don't like an Infernus Marine, a Phobos Marine, and a Stern Guard don't really scream Dark Angels for me. I'd want the leader to have a power sword, right? Have the knightly vibe going on. I don't know, and a plasma guy rather than an Infernus guy because Dark Angels like plasma. So I don't think that's likely, but it's possible as well. Right, final thoughts. What do you like? I've said a lot. What are your opinions? And if you think I'm wrong, call me out, please. Please do. I don't like being negative. I don't want to become one of these people that's just negative about Games Workshop on the internet, and that's my source of clicks and income. But I really don't like disguised gambling. Like, I, I really don't like it, right? And yeah. Please do, subscribe, comment, like, etc., and consider joining the Discord. And if you haven't already, please click the link in the description to the video a year ago where I talk about Warhammer Heroes the first time as well, where I make the same argument. I think I made it better in the original video. I think I'm tired at the moment. But a big thank you to all my members, especially to Nightfall and Samtroth, who are both subscribed to the highest tier, and they give me the money that would allow me to shut up and just buy and just buy the Warhammer Heroes and do them on the channel and be a massive chill for Games Workshop. But I choose not to. All right. Okay, guys. Thanks for that. I'll see you again next time. Should be a video on Monday. Not 110% sure what it's going to be about yet, but there should be a video on Monday. So we look forward to that one. Cheery bye.